Now, gibberellin also causes the cells to elongate. It's also a growth hormone. As you can see, it's written in green. But its major role is seen in stem elongation. So if here is our plant, then we saw that auxin makes this part grow, but gibberellins are usually concentrated over here where new leaves are formed. We call that as nodes, all right? And so gibberellin causes these cells to elongate, cells over here. So if these cells elongate, what do you expect to happen? You'll find that the distance between this will start increasing and the stem starts elongating. And so that's why we usually say gibberellin is responsible for stem elongation. If a plant has less gibberellin in it, it'll tend to be dwarf. If it has more gibberellin in it, it tends to be tall. So today we can extract gibberellin and store it in our labs. And so if there are dwarf plants, we can artificially spray gibberellin on it and just make it grow taller. Now, before we move on, let me tell you some other functions as well. Since this is a growth hormone, not only does it cause stem elongation, but it's also responsible for causing elongation in the fruits that we find. The fruits also grow tall, or basically grow long, because of gibberellin itself. And this means that if you have, let's say, these seedless grapes, which are great, right? We love it, at least I like it a lot, but these are usually tiny. So to make them bigger, what we can now do is we can artificially spray gibberellin on it. And as a result, the grapes will become big, and so you get more money for that, so that's great. Another important function of gibberellin is seen even during germination of a seed. If you want a seed to germinate, you need a lot of gibberellin. Without it, the seed will not germinate at all. So once enough gibberellin accumulates over there, only then the seed will start growing. So this hormone is useful in various stages of growth in the plants. Anyways, as far as our syllabus is concerned, we can just remember the stem elongation part. That's what it's famous for. And so now comes the question, how do we remember this? For this, I like to go back to the story of how gibberellin was even discovered. Turns out that in Japan, a few farmers found that their rice plants were growing taller for no reason. They would grow so tall and then they would just die before giving out any seeds. And on further investigation, they found that that was because of excess gibberellin that was added to this plant due to some fungus that got attached to it. Anyways, now how I like to remember this gibberellin's connection to stem elongation is I like to remember this story. And what I do is I imagine that people talk gibberish to a rice plant. Gibberellin has the word gibberish in it. So I imagine people talking gibberish to a rice plant and the plant starts growing tall. So again, a weird story, but I want you to visualize that. Every time you hear the word gibberellin, visualize gibberish talking to a plant, growing tall, and that helps me remember that its major function is in stem elongation. Okay, so we saw both auxin and gibberellin cause elongations of the stem by elongating the cell itself. That's great. But if you want to grow, and if you want to grow new leaves and new fruits and everything, then you need to be able to make new cells, not just make the cells elongate. So how do we make new cells out of it? That brings us to the next hormone. And so let me